So today we're going to talk about a natural way to improve testosterone metabolism and boost your prostate health. Welcome back to the channel. It's me, your host, Dr. Debra Durst, and my co-host.
Hey guys, Farideh Golembiewski, nurse practitioner here at RevitalyzeMD.
So we've talked about multiple supplements and natural ways to boost testosterone or improve your prostate health, but we have not yet talked about stinging nettle root, which is, a long name, but one
And it can be a root, it can be a leaf, or it could be extract.
Yes.
It could be all kinds of different things, and it is a very interesting little supplement.
Yes, it does multiple things. So we're going to talk about what it does, how it works, how you can take it, and some studies that support the use of it in improving physiologic health.
What is it?
What is it? So it's a plant. Again, we're talking about supplements, and most of the time they come from plants. And then they had noticed some, health benefits of it, and then started forming, supplements that people can take based on it. So sometimes, again, like you talked about, it can be a leaf or an extract. And depending on how you take it, some of the benefits are a little more pronounced. But it is a plant with some stinging hairs on it that kind of actually, when you're in contact with the plant, have some skin irritation.
Hence, stinging nettle.
Stinging nettle. But despite that, it does and has been widely studied and used in traditional medicine for some health benefits. And so what are those health benefits and how does it work?
Yeah. So probably one of the most common side effects or benefits of stinging nettle is more for men's health and men's hormones. We can use it in women too. It just tends to be a supplement that men bring up in the office often because it can help reduce sex hormone binding, which plays a huge role in your free testosterone. So it helps reduce those binders, which can then potentially increase free testosterone in men and women. It can block dihydrotestosterone or DHT. So that's where we get the prostate benefits, is that blocking of the dihydrotestosterone. And it does that through blocking the 5-alpha reductase. It also can help with benign prostate hyperplasia or enlarged prostate because of that DHT blocking. So that's a big one.
Yeah. Well, and it has multiple effects on hormone health. And so you've already mentioned a couple of them. A lot of times when we give testosterone, we want it to stay testosterone, but there'll be a binding globulin, sex hormone binding globulin, that actually binds the total testosterone in the bloodstream. So what's free and active is reduced. And it's really hard to decrease that binding globulin once you have it. And so this is one of those that actually the stinging nettle root will bind to the SHBG or sex hormone binding globulin, and then therefore it can't bind to testosterone. And so you have an increased free testosterone with that. So that was one of the hormonal benefits. And then you talked about the DHT reduction because it decreases that conversion. And we want it to stay testosterone, but it can convert to DHT or estrogen. And this supplement actually reduces the conversion to both of those.
Yep, it works kind of as a aromatase inhibitor in a way. It helps prevent that conversion to estrogen as well. So it does lots of stuff hormonally, but one of the big things that we talked about was prostate health. So we can break down those benefits of stinging nettle and how they affect each one of these areas of health. So like we talked about with prostate health, the lowering of the dihydrotestosterone plays a big role in that.
Yeah. When we talk about, again, giving testosterone or just a man wanting the effects of testosterone, we're usually talking about free and active. What we don't want it to do is convert, and it does naturally metabolize to either estrogen or DHT, dihydrotestosterone. We want to decrease those conversions because the DHT conversion is actually what gives you the prostate issues or even hair issues. And so if you decrease that conversion, then you have less in the way of prostatic enlargement or any kind of urinary symptoms with it. So
or inflammation.
And also some hair loss with DHT conversion. And so when you're talking about side effects or effects men don't want with testosterone conversions, it's DHT and prostate health, which is usually urinary symptoms, and then it's the hair
Yep.
loss or hair thinning. And then estrogen is the other conversion, which it decreases. And
Yes.
so prostate health is a huge one with this. It decreases the prostate size. It increases a lot of or it increases prostate function, and so improves all those urinary symptoms that men can have, which is a huge complaint for men over the age of 50.
Yep. As men age, the prostate tends to get enlarged. It is a natural process as men age. So supplements like this that are easy over the counter are a good option.
So if you have any urinary symptoms at night, feel a frequency to void, feel like you are constantly not emptying your bladder and you have that urge, those are the prostatic symptoms that you can have. And so benign prostatic hypertrophy is actually BPH, is not a cancerous condition, but when you get that, you can have urinary symptoms. And so this helps improve all of those. And sometimes used in combination with saw palmetto, which also helps decrease those conversions. And then you can also use mineral supplements with it. So selenium helps decrease that conversion too. So that's
So it can be used with other supplements to enhance the benefits.
yeah. And frequently our men will come in almost asking questions about different supplements that improve either testosterone or prostate health. And this is one of those. But in addition, frequently as we get older, we have joint aches and pains. And so this also decreases inflammation and decreases joint pain, joint swelling as we get older too, because it has anti-inflammatory effects.
Yeah, it actually helps with those cytokines, those inflammatory markers to help reduce those. So it has a huge inflammatory benefit.
Yes. And so if you think about that and extending it to even allergies, that is one of the things, not that that ties into men's health, but it also decreases any kind of allergy or histamine effect. And so therefore the anti-inflammatory and anti-allergen, effect is present. It's just some of the things that this supplement can actually do. And so if you're talking about how you end up taking it, again, it comes in multiple different forms. So you can take a capsule, you can take an extract, a tincture. And so some of them work better for certain things, like the root is typically better. And we will have men that come in asking.
Oh, yeah. So with the root, typically if you're taking it is very much so labeled. So when you go in and you look at stinging nettle, it will say root, leaf, or extract. So it is always defined on the bottle. Root's usually good for prostate hormonal. Leaf is more allergy and inflammation, but extract is a little bit more comprehensive. So apparently if you take stinging nettle extract, you get a benefit from all areas. You get the hormone, the prostate, the allergen, the inflammation. You kind of get the best of all the world, of all that it offers. But root is typically used for just prostate and hormonal support. But most of our guys look for that extract because who doesn't have inflammation as we age? Who doesn't have, we live here in East Tennessee. Allergies are a season. They really are. So anything that can help decrease allergens and help that histamine response is always beneficial here.
Yeah, and you want anti-inflammatory effects in the body overall, because as we age, our hormones decline, inflammation increases. And so what we're talking about with this is, yes, if we're giving or optimizing testosterone, it helps that hormonal health, but also just if a man is looking for some way to improve hormonal health without optimizing with testosterone, this is one of those supplements that can do it. When it comes to dosing, I always say check on the bottle too, because in a capsule form or an extract, it might say 300 to 600 milligrams, but honestly, it also depends on how standardized the extract is. And so usually I look at the brand or the manufacturer and what they recommend. And we like medical grade supplements, which, when they do this in combination with other ones for prostate health, it's very helpful. But
and
basically,
it is pretty standardized.
Look at the dose. 300 to 600 is but a powder might be different. And so how much they tell you to take in a powder form, and it might be in a gram, or 2 grams instead.
Or it might be a dropper or a tea. You can take stinging nettle in a tea. So there's multiple options. So really just follow the instructions on the back and make sure you've got a valid company that you're going through, a valid sourcing.
Yes, and we will put a link in the description of some medical grade options for that. The big thing is whenever you're talking about prostate and prostate health, and one of the reasons why we're doing this is we get a lot of questions from men on supplements to use for prostate health and for hormonal health. So just remember to check with your doctor. You always remind everyone of that
Oh,
one.
look
I
at
know.
you pulling out the check with your healthcare provider.
I had to do it beforehand, although they may
Love
not
it.
know exactly what you're talking about with this. But the big thing with prostate health is if you're having urinary symptoms, you want to make sure your prostate is healthy, and PSA screening is not a very standard, it's not standardized, and it's not a requirement to screen for PSA, but that is something that you want to do on a regular basis, and your primary care doctors do that. We also do that in any of our hormonal patients, but you want to make sure that it is a benign condition that's causing your symptoms. And so definitely check with your doctor prior to dosing, because if you haven't had your prostate tested, you want to make sure that there isn't any kind of cancerous condition that you're trying to treat. Just be complete in that.
And I know that we've had local urologists with patients that we've worked with that have said, hey, hold your saw palmetto or hold, and your DHT blocker so that we can see true results when they're monitoring something. So definitely always check before you start a new supplement.
I know. See, I'm right on board with you right now. Behaving.
Love it.
Yes. So basically, this is a great supplement for men, and it's more in men's health than it is in women's. And we don't use it too often, really, in women.
No, but I
quite
mean,
frankly.
as we're prepping for the podcast and we're talking about supplements that are heavily used for men or supplements that are heavily used for women, because there are ones that do tend to lean into certain genders. But this is one, just the fact that it can lower sex hormone binding is huge. That is something that would be beneficial in women, especially women on like long-term birth control. We see elevated sex hormone binding in.
Yeah,
so
it's a
this
great
is
point.
definitely something that we probably need to expand into more of our female patient population as we move forward in those areas where maybe we hadn't thought about it so much.
Well, and actually just looking at studies related to the increase in SHBG with women on long-term birth control, because maybe there are some out there. So it's a great supplement. Again, it's a plant-based, natural, and improvement in anti-inflammatory markers and antihistamine effects, and then great for hormonal health and prostate health related to those metabolites of testosterone when you're taking it or even when you're not. So something to ask your doctor about if you're having any of the symptoms we talked about. But the one other thing that I do want to mention is that it also helps with blood sugar regulation. And so there were some studies.
nice.
Yeah, there were some studies to show. So again, as we age and our hormones decline, we get an increase in inflammation in the body. We also have abnormal lipid panels, and we have insulin resistance that happens. And so this one did have better fasting blood sugars and potentially related to a decrease in insulin secretion. So
What's
that is something
interesting
to
with
think
that,
about.
though, is that oftentimes increased sex hormone binding can be related to increased blood sugar or thyroid problems. It's usually a metabolic issue underlying, which is causing that elevation. So if this helps with that blood sugar regulation, I wonder if that's also part of why it can help reduce that sex hormone binding
Yeah.
significantly for some.
Yeah, so that is another added benefit. So let us know if you have any other ideas, supplements that we haven't addressed. Let us know if you've tried this with positive effects, because again, we are willing to deep dive into anything wellness or sexual wellness.